get you in trouble, not me. So.
Hi, Governor. Richard Fry with the November Patriots. And I had a question to get you to kind of clarify one of your positions. In the campaign, one of your primary issues was Obamacare, and you said it was unconstitutional, it would ruin the Kansas budget, and it was socialism, and you were going to protect the people of Kansas from that. But we know that in December, you informally approved the application for an early innovator grant, and then in February, you made the procedure so that we could actually get that grant. And now you're saying that it was mandated that we do that. And my question is, are you going to go forward with the Obama exchange here in Kansas, or are you going to stop the development, and are you going to return the federal money?
I believe the Obamacare is unconstitutional. I said during the campaign, I've urged us to join the lawsuit on this. Kansas is a part of the lawsuit against Obamacare. I don't think that it's constitutional if you can require somebody as a part of their citizenship to purchase a commodity, which in this case is health insurance. But that's going to be for the courts to decide, and right now the courts have been divided on it at a lower level. The state of Kansas for over a decade has tried to do some form of insurance exchange itself. You can go back legislative initiatives for a decade now have tried to have an exchange where you get a number of people in the marketplace present, and you have them bid on a similar type of policy, and let Kansans decide if they want to take, okay, I'll take policy over here, but not this one over there. This has been a debate in the legislature, say, for about a decade. What I thought we could do is use the Innovator Grant not to do Obamacare. I am not supportive of us doing Obamacare, but to use that to do an exchange that provides a market mechanism, because I think we can use more market forces in healthcare to do that, and it's not required that we do use it to comply with Obamacare. But I don't support that.
Governor, I've read that grant. It certainly does require that you comply with Obamacare, and that was determined to be so by the Oklahoma legislature.
Well, my interpretation and other legal counsel that I've had would not agree with yours then on that. If I could say, too, you've got an excellent delegation in the House and in the Senate from Johnson County. We've got a lot of issues up on tax policy, which is critical to get it right, on capers, which is critical to get it right, on government spending, which is critical that we get it right, and concentrate in fewer areas that are of the key priority for us to have, on school finance formula and school reform. I would urge you as a party to really use your legislative leadership that you have here to feed in those sorts of ideas and those sorts of innovations that you have. This is what your group is here for, and they're very good and very effective at it. God bless you all. Move forward.
Live, local, and informed. You're getting your day started with the all-new KCMO Morning Show with Greg Knapp. Check it out. On KCMO Talk Radio 710.
My name is Greg Knapp. This is the KCMO Morning Show. I am bringing in Charlotte O'Hara, Kansas State Representative, Republican Overland Park. She is in studio with me to talk about how Obamacare is going to impact Kansas and what we're already seeing. Charlotte, how are you this morning?
I'm very well. How are you?
Doing great. We appreciate you coming in. I was reading through some of the literature that you're putting out to your constituents about the Kansas Health Policy Authority, about the Obamacare Health Exchange. Let's start with the estimate on how much this is going to cost Kansas. Let's start with K-Med and what you found out on that.
Well, I think I need to go back just a little bit. The reason that I even started looking into this was that Jim Denning, who is also an Overland Park Republican representative, told me that I needed to research this innovator grant that Sandy Prager, who is the insurance commissioner, had applied for and had received. Mm-hmm. And so I started digging through that, and to my horror, it was the early innovator grant is basically implementation of Obamacare in Kansas. And I just was absolutely stunned that as a Republican state, that we would be taking $31.5 million from the federal government to implement Obamacare in Kansas.
Yeah, let's go over that for just a second. And like you said, then we'll get into details, because here we are as a state saying, okay, we're against Obamacare.
Correct.
We're fighting Obamacare. We got a lawsuit against Obamacare. The people of Kansas don't want Obamacare. Governor Brownback put out this proclamation about it. People have the right to choose not to have their own health care if they don't want to. We're all over it. And then you find out that we're also now going to be an early innovator of implementing Obamacare. And how does that go together?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't understand it. And I've been in meetings with the lieutenant governor, who he was on the joint committee that gave Sandy Prager the encouragement to apply for this grant back in December. But the Brownback administration was made aware of this application, and they also were aware that then Governor Parkinson had to sign a letter that if we accepted this money, it was our intent to establish these health exchanges, which is part and parcel of Obamacare.
So what does Governor Brownback say when you go to him and say, what's going on here? I mean, is it just about the money? What is it about?
Their song and dance is, if we don't establish this health exchange, and by the way, we're not really going to establish this health exchange unless the legislature approves it. However, we're taking the money to establish these exchanges, and I'm going, well, if we don't, then we're going to send the money back. I mean, you can't have it both ways. Basically, they're trying to play both sides, and I'm going, this makes no sense.
And then, of course, it hurts the lawsuit, because it makes it look like, well, you say you're against this, but you're actually implementing it. I mean, how's that going to impact the judge's decision?
Well, according to Michael Tanner with the Cato Institute, that it has already damaged our standing in the lawsuit. So as states take the early innovator money and they begin implementing the infrastructure for Obamacare, it makes it harder and harder for the Congress to repeal it, and for the courts to say, well, you're implementing it, then what's your problem with wanting to say that it's unconstitutional? It's
Exactly.
One or the other.
Exactly. We're talking with Charlotte O'Hara. She is Kansas State Representative, Overland Park Republican, here on the KCMO Morning Show. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And the other angle you talked about of them saying, if we don't come up with the way we want to do the exchange, the federal government will make us. Doesn't there come a point where the state has to fight that? Where the state has to say, there's this thing called the 10th Amendment. There is a Constitution. The federal government cannot just tell the states what to do, and fight it.
Well, this isn't the first time as a legislator, and I'm a freshman. I was a freshman legislator this year, and I was absolutely shocked time after time after time, the storyline. Well, if we don't do this, then the federal government's going to come in and they're going to do it. And I'm going, under what authority? Under what authority? Basically, because of all the federal money that the state of Kansas has taken over the years, we're a subdivision of the federal government. In 2011, we took $5.1 billion from the federal government. I mean, that's astounding.
You know what's happened is we've allowed this over the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years to slowly keep creeping in, where the federal government puts more and more strings on the states by tying them to this money.
Absolutely.
And it's really going to take all the states saying, wait a second, this is not how the system was supposed to work, but instead we've just all kind of accepted it now, and they don't even challenge it in court, so the Supreme Court can't even rule on whether any of this is constitutional because nobody's challenging it.
We have sold our sovereignty by taking all this federal money. And now we're to the point, to me, this is where we have to draw the line in the sand. We absolutely must send that money back. $31.5 million, yes, it's a lot of money, but I'm sorry. If there are good ideas within this KMED, fine. Then let's pay for it ourselves and not have all the strings attached that the federal government always sends, and stand up and fight against Obamacare, because we're not. We're not.
Right. And the other part of this, Charlotte, is we have accepted that our money should go to the federal government to do these things and then come back to us, instead of saying, wait a second, if every state would keep more of their own money and do it at the state level, they'd do it more efficiently. They'd do it better. They'd be able to, the more local, the better, and knowing what's going on in your own backyard. But, there comes a time where you're saying, let's take the stimulus money. People say, well, if you're really conservative, you shouldn't take any of that money. But I also say, well, wait a second. Our state paid all that money because they were taking it from us no matter what. So are we going to unilaterally now say we're not going to take any of that back and every other state gets it except us?
Well, we're going to have to stand up and be the example and be the light and say we no longer as states can be blackmailed by the federal government by always capitulating to them by accepting this federal money. We're the golden rule. He who has the gold rules. And I mean, that is just the long and the short of it. If we continue to take the money from the federal government, we're going to be told what to do, how to do it, how high to jump. Every little detail will be managed from the federal government. And that's not the healthy way to do this.
Maybe we should have, like Kansas, collect all the federal income tax from the people and only send to them the money that we think they deserve and keep the rest in Kansas and have them sue us for the money.
Right.
I'd like to see that. That would be fun. Have that go to court. Do it the other way.
Well, I
know you can't. I'm just
right, but this is a huge problem, and I just want to know: are we fighting Obamacare? Are we fighting the implementation of the Affordable Care Act? Or are we in the back room going, oh, well, just in case this doesn't work, then we're going to go ahead and take the money and set up the health exchanges and put all the infrastructure in place? I don't think George Washington, when he was leading the Continental Army, was doing backroom deals with the British just in case this experiment didn't work.
That's a great point. Now we're talking to Charlotte O'Hara. She is a Kansas State rep, Overland Park Republican here on the KCMO Morning Show. We're talking about Obamacare in Kansas and how it's already impacting the state. There's also this new one that just came out of the New York Times yesterday, and they're spying on doctors is what they're going to do. They're going to call up the doctors to find out if they would take them as a new patient, if they're Medicaid or Medicare, and how long it will take. And, we're not saying that there'll be any punishment for this. We're just looking into it. It sure seems like they're already trying to put pressure on the doctors to do what Obamacare wants them to do. And, look, a lot of these doctors now are saying, we're losing money when we see a Medicaid patient. We can't take any more of them or we will go under. Shouldn't a doctor have the right to be able to still take other patients but say, I've got to stay in business?
We really have to bring the free market back into the medical industry to get the costs under control. Competition, and that's the problem with these health exchanges, is that it limits the competition. Clunky regulations is how the economists put it, that the costs have just skyrocketed in Massachusetts. It is not working. Sounds good, health exchanges. Oh, great. That sounds like a great idea. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We need to be looking at these policies. Is this limited government? Does it lower taxes? Is it free enterprise? Does this adhere under the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution? And on Obamacare, I can say no on all 4 points. So why in the world would the Brownback administration be helping implement Obamacare in Kansas? Yeah. I just don't understand it.
Eric Stafford, you quote, Senior Director of Government Affairs for the Kansas Chamber, saying about the exchanges, this is actually a conservative plan with the intent of fostering an environment of competition. While Obamacare has many faults, I would question whether the exchange, if properly built for the consumer, in one of those pieces that should be repealed. I'm sure you're aware that if we don't establish our own exchange, the federal government will come in and make one for us. I would like the business community in Kansas to have a say in how our exchange would operate, not have one forced down our throats. That's what we were talking about a minute ago.
Absolutely. However, if Obamacare is found constitutional and we do set up our own health exchange, if it does not adhere to federal regulations, they will be stuffing it down our throats.
Gotcha. Well, very interesting stuff. Listen, we appreciate you coming in. Really look forward to you keeping us up to date on it. I know you're getting into deep research on it, and we appreciate what you're doing.
People want to voice their opposition to this, they can call the Lieutenant Governor's office at 785-296-2214 and say, send the Early Innovator Grant money back.
Good stuff. We'll get it up on our Facebook page as well. That is Charlotte O'Hara, Kansas State rep. She is Overland Park Republican, very upset about what's going on with Obamacare in Kansas.
You're listening to the KCMO Morning Show with Greg Knapp.